and I dive into this episode kind of as coaches today to discuss whether coaching should be emotionally draining or if it's an emotional investment of your time. And we go through a lot of the tips and tactics that we use, really mentoring ourselves as younger coaches in a way, of things we wish we knew then, now, on how to approach practice and how to approach coaching youth hockey. A little bit of a better mindset that helps you get through the season, helps you get through the year. We also discuss a lot about how parents should be approaching this and kind of viewing their coaches in this episode. So it's a really great one. Before we dive into the episode, if you love what you're hearing, which you obviously do because many of you listen, you've made us a top 10 show in hockey, we'd appreciate it if you would pause real quick and give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Outcast, wherever you're listening. We appreciate if you could give us that extra boost of those reviews. It really helps us a lot. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out our page on Facebook, Our Kids Play Hockey. Our group is where you can ask questions. You can continue discussion from some of the episodes we've had. We have a lot of people there that post as themselves or anonymously asking for help from the community. It's really been a wonderful place for everybody. So check that out. Again, Our Kids Play Hockey on Facebook. Rank Our Kids Play Hockey wherever you listen to podcasts. But above all, enjoy this episode with Mike and I as we discuss, should hockey coaching be emotionally draining? Here we go. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. We have a fantastic question today submitted by one of our users. Mike and I were discussing it on the air for a while. Mike.
Yes, Lee. Go ahead.
I have the question here. I'm going to give it to the audience now. They're eagerly waiting, and I've been teasing them too long. The question is, should coaching youth hockey be emotionally draining? It's a great question. Many people listening right now going, I'm emotionally drained as a parent, as a coach. But today we're going to discuss this as coaches of how emotionally draining or not emotionally draining coaching youth hockey is, because I think it's an important perspective that everyone gets, Mike. I really believe that.
Yeah. I get everybody. Yes, you are by definition, when you're coaching at any level, you're emotionally invested. Hopefully you're not some cyborg and just come out there and don't have any care about who you're working with and what you're doing.
If you do that.
Yeah, well, and maybe you will. I see a lot of cyborgs out there though. So I think yeah, if you're emotionally invested, that's probably a good sign you care. But what is that emotional investment consist of, and right. At what detriment to your emotional health does it should it manifest itself?
Well, I can tell you this, with youth hockey specifically.
Define our youth hockey here today. We're talking like 10U.
Yeah, I would say 10U down. I mean, in my experience, I'm talking about just starting with Adams for the first time. I'm going to kind of go through my journey a little bit. You've been through the whole thing. And again, like I came into Adams after having coached very high levels for quite a bit of time. And I'm not going to lie to you, the first season or two, I was completely emotionally compromised and it was draining. But that's because I had not matured yet in the role. And I'm hoping to be able to share, here's what I've learned from coaching those levels that has really, in my opinion, made me a much better emotionally stable person when coaching those levels, because I really do feel like I have a grip on it now. But I'll tell you right now, Mike, when I started, I had very little patience. I had a lot of anxiety. I mean, my kid was on the ice, which probably didn't help with that anxiety. I think if I was just coaching kids, it would have been different. But yeah. I've said this before on the show, but I got to say it again. I had to really learn how to be patient as a coach, as a parent. And it's not just on the ice. This is what I wanted to say. It's everything from, hey, when we get home, you have to empty your bag. You have to dry your equipment. You have to pack your bag. And it was just, none of it was happening. I was really upset, constantly saying to myself, like, I really am not enjoying this. And then I remember there was a moment, Mike, I kind of hit this wall and I said, it's not the kids, it's me. Right. And when I hit that place, things started to change. Like I'm expecting at the time, a 6-7-year-old to kind of know what to do with their bag. And I'm probably speaking pretty aggressively. It's like, I wasn't even making an environment where it was going to be conducive to learning. It was just a hassle. Right. So what I did was I decided I'm going to change my mentality here. I'm going to be insanely patient. Instead of thinking these kids are going to get something in one practice or two practices, it might take them the entire season. And I have to be okay with that from on the ice. In terms of the hockey bag, it's maybe I should help him first or help her first before I get on them, and just find a better way to teach. Because at the end of the day, Mike, this is the big realization. One is that I play a role in my own emotional state, right? Again, I went from being emotionally draining to emotionally invested. And then the other big realization is that coaching young kids, it's like preschool, kindergarten, first grade. You have to have the same level of patience with these kids that those teachers do, because they're the same age. It's the same thing at school for them. And again, once I got there, I really started to change. And again, now I'm in a position, Mike, and I'm going to throw it to you, that I really am very comfortable now with progress, and or lack of progress might be the better word, or emotional outbursts from a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old, which is really kind of somewhat normal, and just being patient with all of it. I've gotten myself there. But if you're a new coach, or you're the parent of a kid on a team with a new coach, it's hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, like, so when I was overseeing the coaching education program for our district, literally the first 2 weeks I was in the role, the first thing I did was seek out preschool and kindergarten teachers that coach hockey. And I'm like, that is the key. Like, it doesn't matter if you know any hockey. And frankly, it doesn't even matter if you know math, science, and in English in preschool and first grade. It really doesn't. It matters. Can you emotionally invest your time in kids and have the patience and the understanding that it's impossible for those children to feed off of what you think they should be at 6 and 7 and 8 years old. Now, the caveat to this is, are there 8-year-olds that are 15-year-olds? Yes, there are. There are kids that are very mature, that are tying their skates at 4 years old, that are taping their own stick, that are watching game film. There just are. I mean, and yeah, that's good. That's great. I think that's great for those families. I guess it's not it's a if that's your child, then hey, you're ahead of the game, I guess, as far as the amount of pressure you put on yourself as a coach or a parent that your kid needs to aspire to be a pro hockey player. But for 98% of the rest of us, a 6-year-old is still playing with Legos, is still not cleaning their room on a consistent basis.
Barely read.
Is the kid that says, "Oh, I know you made me dinner for the last 3 hours, but I don't like that, so I would like a dinosaur chicken nugget."
Everyone is nodding with you, Mike, on that one.
I get it. Listen, I was that coach. I was the coach when I was 23 years old, working with kids, screaming and yelling. Why don't you get this? These kids got to be the stupidest people I've ever met in my life. And like, why aren't you listening to me? Well,
Right.
because you're boring and these drills are hard and I don't understand them. And what the hell are you doing? And I always resort to it. I mean, it's so funny when we're working with new instructors now at the learn to play level and the intro to hockey, and even with older adults, like we would do an adult hockey learn to play. Always resort and fall to fun. Always. Something's not going well, play tag.
Absolutely.
The kids are a little erratic, play keep away. The kids are not listening and they're not engaged. Your drills are boring. They're not fun. So, I mean, you can engage any 7-year-old, any 7-year-old. If you watch and look and educate yourself, you can engage any 7-year-old. Now, I think the conversation kept stemming around, and the kind of the call in and discussion was around, the emotional, like, how do you control that emotion as an adult? Like, and where does it go over the line? Like, are you really that adult that is just losing their mind in an hour? I mean, imagine going, like, I just can't imagine anymore. I can't imagine going to a 50-minute practice with a bunch of 6-year-olds and dreading it,
Right.
and being like, oh, this is the worst thing I can be doing out here. Because you know who notices that? Those 6-year-olds.
Well, and the parents. And you know what's
Right.
interesting, Mike, and what we both said here is that there was this moment of realization of, it's not them, it's me. Right. And I think that that's part of the maturity of a coach, because look, I would say there's lots of different coach forms. Most young new coaches come in with the attitude of I'm going to revolutionize how this is done, and I can teach anybody, and we're going to learn, and here's the thing: it's actually a great kind of thing. It's a great thought, right? You want to do a good job. That's really what you're saying. But it's very hard to relate to a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old if you're not going to meet them where they're at. And one of the things you just said, if the kids are not paying attention, look, I think there is some room for, hey, listen, depending on the level, when a coach is speaking, you do need to listen. I don't have a problem instructing the kids of, hey, listen, we do need to pay attention when coach is talking. But if it's habitual in the sense the kids aren't caring, no, you need to look at the drills. Are the drills fun? And again, listen, we said younger. This is true, really, up the ranks. I mean, even when I was a teenager, I wanted the drills to be fun. They had a higher purpose.
Well, I guess
yeah.
So the answer to that is, right, are they age appropriate?
There
Right. So
go.
they can be fun, but are they age appropriate? Like I watched, so we just did a program in the Bronx with a bunch of first, second, and third graders, intro to hockey, and these teachers were on it. Like
Right.
all the kids are yelling, and I'm like, everybody listen, everybody's got to listen, sit down, and they're like, they just do one little
Yep.
little
Yep.
like 3, 2, 1,
What?
boom, all the kids are listening.
Mike, so what I do, just so you know, because I love to give actionable items, is I will always say, if you can hear me, put your hands on your head. Put your hands on your head if you can hear me. Kids understand Simon Says. They always have. In fact, last night we had a game and they were a little rowdy before the game. I played Simon Says. Man, they all perked up. I know that game. We can play Simon Says. Right.
Easy.
So again, to your point, one of the things that I actually sought out, and I would love to share this information, right, is I realized pretty quickly in the youth hockey journey, I need to start looking at elementary education. Like I need to speak to teachers and learn how they do this every day and somehow survive that, because that was the missing piece. And look, USA Hockey or Hockey Canada can only go so far with that aspect. They're not going to teach you to be an elementary school teacher. It's not really their job, right? So I sought out that extra information. I started talking to my kids' teachers. Hey, what are the methods that you use to get them to pay attention? What are the methods you use when they're not paying attention? And guess what, Mike? They were more than happy. They were so shocked that someone even asked. Like they were more than happy to send me.
Well, the funniest thing is, if you asked a phys ed teacher, I said, would you ever take 20 kids, line them up on the gym, go down to the other side of the gym and yell directions at them about what they need to do in this technical aspect of a skill? And I look at you like, what are you, crazy? Like half the kids would be beating each other up. The other kids would be hiding under the bleachers. 2 kids would have walked outside the back door already. And it's just like, there's no way to corral those kids. It's like, and then I think, the one concept that certainly USA Hockey has been a leader in and around the world watching international hockey is like the station-based small environments where you can have a coach be with it's just so much easier to work with 5 kids than 50. And when you can start pinpointing, no matter what skill level you are, it doesn't matter what skill level you are at with 6 and 7-year-olds. It's, can you be engaging, emotionally connected, and can you look like, can you put a smile on your face that kids can see and communicate with them? And then it doesn't even have to be in like in a verbal way. It could be, like a physical way. If you're out there, poke checking and moving them around. Like I've seen a lot of videos, and this is all context, right? You all look like, I don't know. I often don't judge people's ability to coach based off a 30-second clip or a 10-second clip, or somebody will post like, oh, look at this guy, how's the kids doing a circle drill? I've been guilty of this too, like just kind of coming into a practice and be like, oh my God, what is going on out here? But you don't know the whole context. You don't know, maybe that guy's out there alone. Maybe he thought usually has 5 coaches and today he has 1. I saw a video the other day of a coach hitting a kid in the shin guards and then kind of rubbing him in the face. And I'm thinking, they're going, oh my God, this is horrible. How bad could this be? And I'm like, Jesus, I do that every day. Like I do that every day. Now I don't slash a kid to break his kneecaps, but I'm poking and rubbing my face, put the kids on the ground, and if you're smiling, they're smiling. If you're engaged, they're engaged. If you're playing tag, and I joke around with the kids all the time, like I'm out there, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get you. There's no way you're winning this battle. I'm taking that ringgit from you. I'm taking that puck from you. And they, hopefully they want to compete. It drives the competition out of them. But I think if I was out there telling them to do a drill and they weren't getting it and they weren't listening and they weren't paying attention, and my blood pressure is going up and up and up and up, that's when you have to then say, okay, where am I emotionally here?
Right.
And why am I yelling at 6-year-olds? And I think if all of us sat in our kids' kindergarten and first grade classes, I think we would probably report every teacher that would do that to our kids.
Right.
I think if we
Or
were
in a heartbeat.
if we
Yeah.
sat in the classroom and we were able to go on live bar and classroom edition and sit there and watch kindergarten and first
Man,
grade
the world
class
would implode if we did that.
all day, yeah, I can't believe that this teacher is swearing at my kid about not listening.
Right.
And I don't know why. I coach high school hockey players right now, and the same expectation I have for me and the kids is the same I have for them when they left the classroom 25 minutes ago. Why are you swearing? Why are you f-bombing? Why are you like why is this now okay when it wasn't okay,
Right.
2 hours ago? And I get it. Sport is, there's a lot of latitude in sport. I understand that, and I'm not trying to be soft here, but we do have an obligation, depending on the age appropriateness of where you're at with
Yeah.
your kids, to be engaged with them in the same learning environment that they have during the day.
I'll say a couple things here, Mike. I wrote some notes while we were talking. I think that when it comes to sport, there's a level of discipline that needs to exist. All right. Now my philosophy with discipline with younger kids is kind of the break them down to build them up kind of mentality. And when I say break them down, I don't mean verbally assault a kid. I'm saying that as the coach or coaches, again, there are times you need to listen to your coach's instruction. And if you are not listening, I will point you out and I will say, excuse me, the coach is speaking or my other coach is speaking. You need to listen. It is not your turn to talk. I have no problem disciplining a kid. I will also always be, and I practice what I preach, and anybody who has been on the ice with me knows this. I will also be the first one to high five that kid when they do a good job the next time. Or I will say, hey, you did a great job listening that time. You break them down to build them up. That is how I teach them that aspect. And I don't think there is anything wrong if it's done the right way of explaining that type of discipline to your children. And again, it's not why aren't you listening? You need to listen when the coach is speaking. It's not. I'm not again not verbally assaulting them, but I'm saying when a coach speaks, you listen. It's instructive. All right. And then same thing on a drill. If someone's not paying attention on a drill, I'm not going to scream down the ice. I'm going to, hey, come over here. We're going to start again because that's not what I explained. Were you paying attention? Again, I do think, and again, this is at any age level. If you start quote unquote soft, I mean, you're setting yourself up. You need to start with a certain expectation of this is kind of how it goes when the coaches speak, you will listen. These are my expectations. Now, with that said, this is kind of the other thing I wrote down. You have to have realistic expectations. It is not realistic for me to think that 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds are going to listen on every word that I say, every practice at every time. That is absolutely not realistic in any way. Right. So I expect to have to do some of this explanation or discipline or whatever word you want to use there. And I think that where a lot of coaches run into the emotionally draining side, Mike, and this is where I want to throw it back to you, is they'll come in with this expectation of this season, I want to accomplish these 15 things with this team. They can't skate, pass, or shoot. And when I'm done with this team, they're going to be the best in the league. Like you don't know the team yet. You can come in with some expectations, but after 5 or 6 practices, you have to be willing. And again, Mike, this is where a lot of coaches get lost. You have to be willing to throw that expectation list in the garbage and say, okay, listen, we need to work on skating. And at the end of the season, if these kids can skate somewhat efficiently, and that's it, especially at the younger ages, I'm talking, I've done my job. And again, I'm working with the team right now. We had a coaches meeting and 15 things came up in this coaches meeting. Every one of them a legit thing the team needs to work on. And I instructed us, I said, listen, we got to break this down to 3 things that we want to work on over the season right now. And we will start with one of them. And when we feel we get proficient enough in that one, then we can move on because one builds to the next, right? You can't jump into tactics like extreme hockey tactics if they can't pass efficiently or they can't transition efficiently. So you got to be willing to raise or lower your expectations to meet those kids where they're at and to have a very clear view of what is it that from a development standpoint we need to work on this year. If you can do that, the emotionally draining part of it becomes emotional investment, because now you have really clear, good expectations and goals for the team. And you can tell the players that, Mike. You can say, hey, listen, I want you guys and girls to be great skaters by the end of the season. So we're going to work on that. Mike, saucing the puck to you.
Yeah, well, so again, I think I fall on the words of, where, okay, if you're working with a certain age group, and let's go back to this age appropriate age group. I think actually in the clip, these are like, and some of the conversations are around like, these are 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. These weren't high school. Like I have certain rules, right? Whistle blows or a drill ends and we're going in, or it's a non-shooting drill, you're not shooting. Like if the whistle blows and we're calling everyone in and we're transitioning to the next activity, you're not ripping pucks off the the back of my head. Like it's just an expectation. And if you do, there's a discipline there. And I had that at every level, right? So now, am I worrying about a 5-year-old hitting me? No, but I'm worrying about an 18-year-old hitting me. Like I don't want, where everybody relaxes, the whistle blows, and all of a sudden this guy wants to wheel around and take a puck off the, off the post. So little things like that, right? Are it depends on the age. But if we're talking about, coaches that get emotionally crazy, emotionally invested or overzealous about certain aspects of where they're at teaching, a lot of it's because you're trying to teach. I mean, you're trying to you're trying to do stuff that for most of the kids in your team, concepts that they don't need to understand, want to understand, or even benefits them from understanding. If you can find ways to play, just be an area, again, if you need technical pieces of stick handling and block drills and, tactical stuff, that's fine. In my opinion, after, Jesus, like 35, 40 years of doing this consistently.
You don't have to count it out on the air.
I just don't think it benefits the 6-year-old. I really don't. I think there's, like, when I watch coaches do flow drill breakouts with 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds and mites, it is absolutely. Now, can they do it? And do some of the kids look like they can do it?
They can do something.
Like they're out there, but they're robotic. Like if you're yelling at a kid for not taking the puck behind the net, hitting the winger, and then the winger hits the centerman, it's cutting across the top of the circle. I see it every day. I walk into rinks every day, and I'm looking like, why do people accept this? Like, why do people want a 7-year-old to look like an 18-year-old? And why do the coaches? Why do they get so emotionally crazy about them not being able to teach that? And what it tells me is they just don't know. They're just not educated to know that they can't teach it.
Right.
That it's just not in the lexicon of what they should be teaching those 8-year-olds. Just isn't.
One of the
I'll get pushback. I'll get pushback from the AAA elite coaches. I get it. But you're dealing with very, very few kids, and even at the elite level with those few kids, there's very few of those kids that are getting it.
To get to the elite level, a lot of things have to happen for a player to get that good, right?
Well, I'm saying elite too at 7-year-olds. So that's
you're making the sarcasm. Look, here's the deal. Everybody advances differently. Like hockey players are like kids who read or do math. Everybody develops a little bit differently. You're gonna some people. I have seen athletes become 15 or 16, and you never would have given them a look, and then suddenly they are the best player on the ice by far because they're great athletes. But Mike, I want to rewind back. One of the most eye-opening moments for me, probably about 10 years ago, was I remember I was in a coaching clinic for younger kids. It's kind of one of the first times I ever had to do that. And I was asked to describe a stride, like a hockey stride, mechanically. And I had a really hard time with it because I've never had to do it. I could always just skate. I was always coaching older people older players that knew how to skate. And suddenly I'm being asked mechanically, from the core to the hip to the knee to the ankle to the placement to the drive. I mean, things I had never thought about before. And I'm realizing in this moment, like, wow, I don't know how to teach someone how to skate. I mean, I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? And
I can show them,
right,
but I can't put it on a whiteboard and say, listen, this is what I need you to do.
Right. And it's, that was another eye-opening moment for me of just, hey, you don't know everything, right? You can always be learning. And it's like you're saying with the breakout of you're teaching them something before, there's 10 steps before the breakout. Now, I also understand at the really young ages, it's like, if we can get the breakout down, we can get goals, we can win games. Well, I mean, look, first off, in Mike, they don't keep score most of the time. by the time you get to squirt, that's a good skill set to start learning. But if they don't understand the purpose or the skill sets behind it, what ends up happening? Defense rings it around the boards, winger misses it, goes to the defenseman on the other team. They shoot the puck, defense gets it, rings it. It becomes cyclical, right? When there's a lot of again, personally, I think possession's an important skill to understand. Don't just play ping pong with the puck. Let's build some confidence in our players of holding on to the puck and having someone earn the puck from them. And I always tell my players, look, I tell adult league players this: if you have the puck and there's no pass, don't just throw it away. And if you have the puck and a player comes to you and takes it from you, they've earned the puck. I'd rather they earn it beating you than you just throw it to the other team. Now that is, to me, along with skating and stick handling and passing, a valuable lesson for a young kid of you don't have to throw it away right away. You do need to look for your teammates, but you don't have to throw it away. Right. So little things like that. Just keeping the conversation on course here, Mike. Another thing I want to bring about just with emotional draining, there's some advice I got as a high school player that I think applies heavily, equally to coaches and parents for that matter. And I remember I was being driven to a game by one of my coaches, and I was having just a hard time. It was high school. I was having a hard day, whatever. Life was happening. And he said to me, when you walk in this rink, you leave all that outside. You have to leave all of it outside. You're here to play hockey, play hockey. This is your place of peace. And, honestly, to that point, no one had really told me that. And we talk a lot on the show about being present, right? It's the same thing as a coach. This is what the kids don't understand. And by the way, the kids don't care. If you had a hard day at work, or you had an argument with your spouse, or you had horrible, horrible traffic on the way over, or the weather is bad, kids, they don't care. Nor should they care. It's not their job to care about that. They're kids. B, you got to leave all of it outside the rink. When you walk into that rink, it should be a fresh place for you. You have to leave the day outside. And here's the reason why. You deserve that as a human, and the kids, most importantly, deserve that too. When you walk into that rink, all of the stresses in your life, I know it's not as easy as it sounds, you got to leave it outside the door, because when you walk in that rink, you're a coach now. I mean, you're a coach all the time, but you know what I mean, right? So it can be a place of peace for you too. But I think if you walk in there with I had a horrible day, and now I got to coach these kids, you are just completely setting yourself up for disappointment. Right now, I got to say this too at the same time. Parents that don't coach, remember, your coaches have had a hard day sometimes. You don't know what they're coming from. You don't know that here's a good one. If you hit traffic getting your kid to practice, it's a good chance the coach did too. Right. And trust me, none of us want to show up 10 minutes before practice, fumbling around with the game plan or the practice plan. You got to remember that the coaches have lives too. And I know many of you do. I to be fair, Mike, like many parents often ask, how are you doing? Is everything okay? I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's rude, but if you see the coach on the ice has had a bad day, maybe he had a bad day. Maybe she had a bad day. All right. We're human, right? So we all have to exercise some patience with that to a point, right? That, if someone's out of line, they're out of line. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think that's why you got to be careful about when you're at the youth level, right? Everybody's driving, you're driving, they're driving their kids.
Kids aren't
hard,
driving.
fast rules of
Right.
you have to be there, an hour before a game, and then you show up 5 minutes before the game and you're late. Like, how do you discipline yourself? Like, what do you, like, it's just there's all kinds of there's all kind of pitfalls at the youth hockey level that everybody likes to look like they're coaching in the NHL. But there's a lot of other aspects, and listen, I was at a college hockey game just a couple of weeks ago. I think the bus was late, and they had to move the game an hour. A college hockey game, Division I college hockey game.
Wow.
So they just had to wait and say, hey, listen, things happen. Accidents happen, and things break down, and travel's not the same. Something. This is not these guys aren't making billions of dollars. Yeah. So I mean, but again, it comes down to understanding if you're a coach at the youth level and you're tasked to work with all these little 6, 7, 8-year-olds, I don't know. I just when I hear like somebody having emotional difficulty coaching at that age, number one, I feel terrible for them because they're just not maybe equipped to coach at that level, or their expectation, they're just uneducated about what that level consists of, and really what they should expect from that level. And I think that's where I think that all governing bodies need to do a better job of teaching the psychology of coaches that work with adolescents.
I agree with you, Mike.
And the adolescent piece changes like an 8 8-year-old is so different than a 12-year-old.
Yeah,
And
we
a
don't do enough.
16-year-old.
I'm not trying to. We
Yeah.
don't do enough from an educational standpoint to prepare coaches for that. We do a great job of skill development, like explaining what drills you can do. We do a great job of like safe sport, like what you can't do. But we don't do a great job of
Right. And
teaching,
it's
like, here's how to deal with
yeah,
an 8-year-old.
yeah, it's funny because the drills are the least important thing
Right.
that we need to know. They really are. For a
I agree.
7-year-old, it's
Yeah.
the least important thing you need to
What am
know
I
for
paying
a
for, Mike?
7-year-old.
what am I paying for as a parent?
Right.
What am
You're
I
paying for
paying
that. You're
for?
paying for that coach to get out there and hopefully your kid plays next year.
I
That's what
always
you're
say,
paying
sweaty
for.
heads go to bed.
Right. Just be engaged. Like I love that engagement. I like the coach that listen, my kids have been with a lot of coaches that I don't agree with, like philosophically, looked like or looking like, oh my God, this guy, what's he doing out here? But you know what? They come off the ice and they love it. Like I don't know, the guy was so happy and he's really having fun and he's goofy and I'm like, listen, that's great. You want to come back? Yeah, I love it. Okay, great. Let's come back. I mean, so I gotta, you gotta, I'm not, but again, I probably don't. I sit with other parents, around the rink, and they're all like, "Oh my God, they got to work on this." Or how come,
Yeah.
losers work on loser things. This is what I'm like. There's 7, even 10. Like, okay, if your kid's not an elite athlete at 10, then maybe they're just having fun. They just want to have hockey. And if you're in that same group, like if you're sitting next to me, then your kid isn't elite. Or, if you're sitting in that group that your kid's not the best player in the country right now, then they aren't the best player in the country, and make sure they're having fun. They love the sport. And I come from it from a grow the game, loving hockey perspective. Like you don't have to, your ability to play at a high level has nothing to do with your love for the game. And your ability to coach at a high level has nothing to do with your love for hockey. If you love hockey and you love working with kids and teaching them the sport, what that level looks like is irrelevant to me as a parent.
Right.
Like I don't need you to have played Division I college hockey and aspire to be a pro coach. I need you to be invested in making sure that the hour you're on the ice with my kid is safe, fun, and I'll throw the word developmental out there, but I think they just develop by having fun. If they're out having fun and they're moving and they're touching pucks, they're developing.
Well, I'm going to say this again. I think that the best skating instruction my son and daughter ever got was chasing each other at a public session without me on the ice. I'll maintain that.
Tag is
Right?
the best.
Yeah.
You know,
And I'm watching them, Mike. I'm watching them. They're doing things that they don't even realize they're doing. They're skating backwards, skating forward. They're going down. They're going up. They're grittying on the ice, which is balance. Kids self-teach a lot. I'm going to echo what you said. I'm not saying instruction is not important, but I mean, every statistic shows that instruction within a fun environment is more powerful than just instruction. Because here's the thing, and parents need to hear this too. We can instruct your kids completely. Like we can make it no fun, full instruction. And you might think that, okay, well, they'll develop. They're just doing what we're telling them to do now. They're not learning anything. They're just doing whatever coach says because that's what coach said to do.
just mimicking the skill, and
Yeah,
that's not learning.
The why behind the skill, like telling a kid, if you can become a great skater, you can become a great shooter and a great passer and a great teammate. The why behind becoming a great passer. I'm about to do a clinic here in a few weeks, a playmakers clinic. And I'm realizing, Mike, there's not too many playmakers clinic out there. And the whole clinic is going to be based on passing the puck. And you know where we're starting this clinic? It's not on passing. It's let me tell you why passing is important. Let me tell you how to catch a pass properly and why that matters when you're making a pass or taking a pass or giving a pass or receiving a pass. I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make passing fun. I always love being a playmaker, but I want to make the kids to feel that too. Right. So like you're saying, it has to be fun, my friends. If it's not fun for you as the coach, and not every practice is going to be perfect, it's not going to be fun for the kids if it's not fun for you. Right. Mike, another one of my coaching evolution. And again, look, this is just me. There's no judgment on anyone really with what I'm about to say. But I remember when I started coaching, I used to wear, the track suits of some of the teams I've coached, mainly because it's what I had. I wasn't necessarily trying to show off or anything like that. But I kept doing this. And I remember like one time I didn't have my track suit. And I was like, why don't you just wear a hoodie and like pants? Like, I don't like why am I going out of my way to find this coaches? And now I kind of go out in a hoodie and like, athletic pants. I'm like, what do I care what I look? Nobody cares what I look like. Right now, again, anyone who wears a tracksuit, nothing wrong with that. Wear whatever makes you comfortable. But I'm saying is like, this is me kind of shedding the layers of Like I don't need, to look a certain way to coach these kids. I don't need to look like a coach. I think in my hoodie and my athletic pants, it's like I'm almost on their level, right? And I want them to understand this. I want to have fun with you, and the drills can be fun if you listen and pay attention and you understand why we're doing them. We'll make these drills fun. I'm going to reiterate: is every practice perfect? No. Do kids need to be disciplined at times? 1,000%. Right? Are there times you need to stop
Yeah.
a practice
No.
because it's going so bad? Yes, but it all starts from a place of love, as Mike said, a place of fun, and the understanding that life is emotionally draining, not just hockey, and you got to prepare yourself for that.
Right. So a couple of things there. If your practice is not going well, I almost give you a 90% chance that you probably didn't plan practice.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
I'd say it's
So
100% chance.
So if you're practicing going well, it's because you're probably winging it, and you had no plan, you have no support, and you really didn't. You're trying to do drills that you're incapable of
Yeah,
doing because you
you're
didn't even know
hoping.
how many kids you were going to have, or
Right.
how many coaches you're going to have, or where your ice was going to be. So that's the number one thing. Number two is, I think there needs to be the adage of kids don't know how much don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's that Joe is it Joe Eastman or who came up with that, the football guy, right? That that that's such a true statement. Like, they don't care. I've watched veteran coaches sit there in a mic practice saying, do you know that in 1987 I coached 4 All-Americans? Do you know who I am when and the kids are looking at him like, I don't even know where I am right now. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like,
What's an
I just
All-American?
I just think I don't care what you did. It doesn't matter who you know. It doesn't matter where you played. It matters, what are you doing for me, Mr. Bonelli? Hey, coach, so and so. Like, what are you doing for me right now? Oh, what am I doing for you right now? I'm chasing you around because you're smiling and having fun and laughing and giggling. And I think that, and if you have a plan that's not working, then the plan needs to be just go and have fun.
Mike, I got a great metaphor for you to support your point, right? So I've done mites on ice many times. And when you do mites on ice in Philadelphia, Bob the Hound Kelly, Stanley Cup winner, champion, Hall of Fame player for the Flyers, always comes in the locker room. He's a gentleman. He always says hi to all the kids. None of the kids really know who he is. And all the dads and moms like, that's Bob Kelly. It's the Hound from the, 74
Yeah.
Flyers, right? And then Gritty will come by. And the kids, they respond to Gritty for
Right.
obvious reasons.
Right.
Now, those of you listening, think about your reaction to this. Of course, they love Gritty. Gritty's fun and crazy and plays hockey, and Gritty's going to go on the ice for them for the Mites on Ice. This has nothing to do with Bob Kelly, right? But they don't care who he is. They don't care that I told them who he is because Gritty's here. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Mike, is we should all be gritty. No, a lot of people don't want to do that. What I'm saying is that
it's a character the kids like. Like, I do a lot of lacrosse clinics and hockey clinics that when we went out and purchased, we do Marvel days, right? So every now and then the kids pop out. I got all my junior guys show up in their Marvel, Captain America and the Hulk and Batman, Superman. I don't know if those are all technically Marvel, but whatever.
They are absolutely not technically all Marvel.
Okay, so I call it Marvel Day. So I'm probably getting a lot of critiques.
You just say comic book day.
Yeah, comic book day. I'm probably getting like, that's not Marvel. How can he blasphemy?
Half of
How
them
can he
were.
say this?
Yeah, I know. This is a whole segment of the audience
when the
going
Hulk
crazy.
is with Batman, like, maybe it's not the same.
That would never happen. Yeah,
okay.
It's okay though.
But they're on the same ice together, and the kids literally could care. I could have. So in lacrosse, right, we had 2 All-American lacrosse guys out there working with our kids one time, doing some face-offs and stick handling or cradling and things like that. And then out from behind the trees, the superheroes came out. They could care less. First of all, they didn't even care before
Gone
that they were there.
Yeah.
And these kids could have showed them anything, and they would have engaged and done it. Whether it's wrong or right, it didn't matter.
Right.
For an hour, I couldn't get kids to leave. And I had and we were paying these other guys like a lot of money to be there instructing all these 9-year-olds, and they're like, whatever, man, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
kids know fun right away.
And I do it in hockey all the time. Now, it's not every day, like every once in a while, boom, Superman shows up on the ice, and all of a sudden chasing Superman around becomes so much more energized and energetic. And then we go back to the subject matter here, right? And that's what the emotional, content of my, how I feel in practice. And I'm like, emotionally, like that would have a long time ago give me a lot of anxiety, because I would be like, oh my God, we have like a half hour. We can't get like and these kids are all running around like crazy people, and I'm trying to get them to learn how to break out of the zone.
Right.
And like they're like, well, we don't even know what you're talking about, coach. Like, I don't care about breaking out of the zone. I care about, but you know how I'm going to break out of the zone? I'm going to chase Superman out of the zone. And I think it's just, and when I see, and I guess the short answer to the caller, or anybody chiming in on the emotional investment of a coach is, don't be.
Right.
You don't need to be. There is no emotional attachment. There isn't. It's like, if you're having anxiety about coaching children, then you're the problem, not the kids, not the circumstances, not the league you're in, not the level you're coaching. It's the fact that you're taking this way too seriously, and I'd be more worried about, wow, are my kids, like, are those kids eating right? And like, I'm more invested in, like, am I going to send that kid home and his dad, who's been up at the bar for the whole 2 hours of practice? Like, that's where I get emotional. Like, I'm more like, oh geez, like I just want to make sure the kids had fun and had a ball, and not think about whether or not I taught them the 1-2-2 for the last hour.
Well, and I want to reiterate too that, again, we're kind of alluding this to the younger levels. This is absolutely true at the higher levels too, Mike. I mean, again, there's a little more expectation on the outcome of practice, but even if you're working tactics, it's not always the most fun thing in the world. But practice is, a team having fun at 18 years old is a team that's winning, right? And again, look, I always said this too, because I always inevitably get a parent coming up to me and saying, hey, look, I listened to the show. I know it's got to be fun, but what about being competitive? Well, I agree with you. Being competitive can be fun, but you got to teach them how to compete. We had a whole episode about that too, right? Like competitiveness can be taught, and it can be fun. You know how to teach competitiveness? Small area games, right?
If you want to contact me right now, I run a learn to play program for the New York Rangers. And
is that a good team? The New York Rangers? Are they
the little Rangers? But I follow the New York Rangers.
The New York Rangers.
I do follow the New York Rangers.
I feel like I should know who they are.
I had to introduce a Ranger the other day. That's a whole nother podcast, but I didn't know the person's name, and I'm like, and now a member of the New York Rangers is here. He's like looking at me like, you don't know who I am. I'm like, listen,
no, I can't say your name. Yeah,
I'm dealing with 8-year-olds every day. I said I have no time to watch NHL. So the premise here, right, is that we run a high performance training environment, 6-station high performance training environment, with kids that have no business being in a high performance training environment because they're not high performance players. But we run it the same as I would with you. If you have the best 12U team in the country right now, I will share this practice plan with you, and your kids will learn more, have more fun, be more engaged, and it will benefit them at a high performance level. It's just what you insert into that. The 6 stations are all fun. They're all battle drills. They're all competitive. There's a winner and a loser. You can do that. It doesn't, to your point is exactly the point I try to make all the time, is that my ability not to be crazily emotionally involved in wins and losses and over the top about what kids are learning has nothing to do with the competitive nature of where I want the kids to be.
Right.
2 kids that can hardly even skate can compete against each other, and they can win and they can lose. Like we can teach that there is meaning between losing a battle. Like but I want to teach you to want to win that battle.
Right. There's a way to teach that.
I think you can do it without, beating the heck out of yourself emotionally, that you're not teaching that, because inherently kids want to compete. You put kids, listen, you see it all the time, right? I mean, you put kids in 2 different environments. You put a kid in an environment where they could win a prize and they try harder.
Right.
And the ones that don't, and I say this in sport a lot, the kids that don't try harder won't. And they won't. They just won't be that kid. They're not going to be the kid that's going to be your Stanley Cup winner. They're just not.
And that's okay.
We can only aspire to who we're going to be.
Yeah.
I can't make you be a competitive kid if you're not.
Yeah. Wayne Gretzky said that too. You know, a woman came up to him and said, you know, can you tell my
Yeah.
kid
Well,
to
what do you do? Yeah.
practice?
Yeah.
And
Right.
he said, no, I can't. You either want to or you don't. And look, here's the other thing with some of the anxiety or the emotional draining. If that's not your kid yet, that's okay. It's okay. I don't know how else to say it. It's okay. Right? The kid will learn to do that when they learn to do that. You can inspire them. The best way to do it is to show it through action. But if your 9-year-old isn't super competitive yet, you gotta meet them where they're at. You
But
can't
they
if you
may
yell at
never
them,
be.
yeah. And
They
I'm
may,
saying that's okay. That's
yeah.
okay. It's not for everybody,
But it
right?
is,
Like my kids are
but
not me.
that is anxiety provoking. Though it is emotionally. If you're like if you come from that loin of being an ultra competitor,
Sure, but that's
it's
you.
hard to watch a child not be
Well, and
ultra
Mike, that's what
competitor.
I'm saying. Like I'm gonna say it. My children, although they have many aspects of me and my wife, they are not me and they're not my wife.
Right.
And if they choose to go a different path, that's fine too. And I think the acceptance of that and the understanding of that, and making sure that you're not you know, reflecting on them too much in that way. If I was competitive, no, they might not be. And you know what's funny, Mike? Every time I feel like I take a step back for my kids, they advance in those ways that I've been wanting them to. Sometimes they need someone else to tell them. Right? Can't always be you. And again,
Or
just
they find the path. I think that
yeah,
goes back to the original conversation about the whole emotional investment in kids is you forget what was the emotional investment your coach had of you when you were a kid, and not many of us had the screamer and the yeller and the guy beating you up and beating you down at 6. We just don't
yeah,
remember it.
yeah.
Like
That's fair too.
somewhere we were inspired to continue to play.
Right.
Somewhere we found the
The
reason to want
love.
to go to the rink.
Well, you had a love for it, right?
Yeah, but
And
that wasn't from guys beating you up.
no, definitely not. I mean, there were times I remember when I got older, I wanted to be pushed, but it wasn't a negative thing. It was very positive, right? Or if I didn't do something right, a great coach would know how to challenge me in a way that I would respond to. And I'll be honest with you, the bad coaches didn't. They didn't know how to
Yeah,
speak to me or other players for that matter. Look, let's just end the show on this. If you feel like you're emotionally drained, which is probably a lot of people listening, right?
I'm emotionally drained right now.
That's why we do the show. Look, the first thing you got to do is first step of any solving any problem is admitting there is a problem, right? Is say to yourself, okay, I am emotionally drained. I get a lot of anxiety from practice. I get I don't want to be there or whatever. I have negative feelings towards hockey and coaching. Acknowledge those feelings. All right. That's the first step. Don't live in it because you're just going to keep getting worse or drowning. Once you've acknowledged those feelings, do an audit of yourself first, not the kids or the parents or the situation. Okay. What do you need to change as a coach to change how practice is being run? It might take one snap of the fingers practice. It might take 5 practices. It might take a whole season. But what do you need to change about the way you're approaching practice? Is it preparedness? Is it the drills? Is it the way your face looks on the ice? Is it how you're speaking to the kids? Do an audit of that. Okay. Probably not doing everything wrong. Might not be doing anything wrong. Just do an audit of that. Then 3 is the implementation. Come to practice with a new emotional state. I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it. Relax. Just relax. All right. Again, if you're coaching youth hockey, relax. All right. It is never as intense as you'd like it to be. Don't worry about what are the parents going to think of my drills. You need to be worried about what you think of your drills. You need to be able to leave the practice. And Mike, this is my bar. I want to leave the practice knowing, hey, I did a great job for those kids today. And if a parent comes up to me and says, why didn't you work on this? Sure. Hopefully it's 24 hours later, but we could have that discussion. But I want to leave knowing I did a great job today. I don't ever want to leave thinking, oh, I hope I made the parents happy today with the drills that we did. No offense, parents. All right. If I'm selected for the coaching role, it's my job to do that. And I also equally want the kids to leave thinking, man, I had such fun at practice today. Like they're on the same level to me. Probably the kids a little higher. All right. But I'm going to say it again. Just relax. You're doing great. You're doing a great job. All right. I'm telling you right now, any coach listening to this, I really mean this. If you're volunteering your time, thank you. I appreciate you. I really, really do. Referees, the same thing, most of you, right? Relax. You're doing good. Just take it a day at a time. Make the rink a place that you want to be. Make the rink a place to be happy. I don't care if your kids can't skate or you have a AAA mite team, which shouldn't exist. All right. I don't care where you are on that scale. Thank you for coaching. You're doing a great job. Parents, for the most part, not every coach deserves to hear that. All right. When's the last time you told your coach, hey, I really appreciate you teaching the kids, even if it's in text form? Some of you do. I get that all the time. I get great parents that let us know. Thank you, coaches. It goes so much farther than you think for the man or woman coming there to teach your kids. All right. And look, if you think they're doing a horrible job, you don't have to do that. Okay. But just think about it. Relax. There is no game or tournament under 15 years old. I can make an argument for above it too, that is going to make or break your kid's quote unquote career. There's not one. I don't care if it is a showcase in front of NHL coaches. It won't matter if the kid does not love the game, it isn't enjoying the game, and finds a love for the game. It won't matter. Relax. I appreciate you. You should too. Mike, I'll give you the last word before I close it out.
Listen, I'm just these coaches are putting their time in. If you think the coach stinks, they don't know what they're doing, then wait till the end of the year and leave the coach. You signed up.
Yeah.
If you followed the podcast for the last 3 years, you did your research, you found out what team you're going on, you found out who the coach was, found out what that coach is like. I guarantee you 98.99% of the coaches that are doing this aren't doing it to hurt your kid. Oh, yeah. They're not doing it because they don't like doing it. They're not doing it because they think that they want to get a letter from you at the end of the year saying what a horrible person you are. They're not doing that. That's not how they go into it. Are they a good coach? They're who cares? They are what they are. They're giving their time to come to your practice and your games 26 weeks of the year, giving up their life to come do this. You don't have to, appreciate it is an understatement. You need to just accept the fact that this is the coach you're with, and then teach your kids and the other parents that are in the stands with you how to deal with that, and then you change it. I rarely have seen a coach get dismissed midway through a season. I mean, it's happened every now and then, but for winning and losing, no. I mean, come on. This is not the NHL. It's not college. Even in college, you don't see it. Like, they just stick it out somehow. Like, okay, we got to make it work, and let's just keep making it work. And let's use this as a teaching, anybody I advise or talk to, I'm like, listen, let's use this as a teaching tool. What can you supplement outside of what you don't think you're getting? And then then in March, you reevaluate what you've done. But in overall, the anxiety here is mostly, I think when we're talking about a coach having anxiety, sit back, have fun, appreciate the parents that appreciate you, wipe out the parents that don't, because I guarantee it's not like, everybody says, I go, who's everybody? Who's everybody? Tell me exactly who everybody is.
Everyone says, Mike, your defense coaching is bad.
Everyone. Right. Who's everybody? Well, the other two guys I go to the country club with. Okay, good. Those two guys. Who? Anybody else? Well, I heard that no. Who is specifically? They can't come up with the answer. There is
sounds like the news media.
There's no everybody. There's no everybody. Tell me specifically who's upset with me. Nobody. Okay.
Why?
Let's move on. Let's move on from there. So I think at the end of the day, it's never as bad as you probably think it is. It's probably better than you think it is, because most people don't go out of their way to tell you how great it is. They just accept that it's great. And I got my kids hate. I'm like every single practice. I'm like, turn around, go say thank you. Oh yeah, I forgot. And I've seen teaching. It, and it's funny. Like at the midget level now, the 16U level, I can't remember a time that I've been out getting off the ice where every player hasn't come and fist bumped me after practice. Like, it doesn't happen anymore. Like, these kids they know, like, okay, now I'm at the age where I'm going to appreciate this. Like, I'm getting this great opportunity. I'm going to go show that coach that I appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the pendulum of knowing, like, and the funny thing is, like, for me, I notice the kids that don't do it, that don't care. They don't even care about being out there. I'm like, okay, well, that kid's not he ain't getting a recommendation from me. I mean, I like him. I think he's a great person, but I'm like, he didn't do anything for me. Like, he doesn't do anything that I would go out of my way to help that player. Right. Like, oh my God, I got to help you. But you know what? The kid that fist bumps me, that picks up pucks, that says thank you, not even gifts. The gift is the appreciation. The gift is, wow, thanks for being out here tonight at 11:30 at night coaching my kid and me. Like, That's the gift.
Well,
So
and I'll say this too, Mike. It's a trained behavior in the sense of this. It goes beyond hockey. Like if someone gave you the best hamburger you've ever had in your life, you might say, "This is the best burger I've ever had in my life." But would you tell the chef? Would you go out of your way to find that chef at the restaurant and say, "Listen, I just want you to know this is the best hamburger I've ever had in my life." I want to be the person that would do that.
I start doing that now. I go get my
Yeah.
haircut. I'm like, I got to tell this guy how great it was. I mean, I put my hat on again, but I think it's like, I'm like nobody tells anybody anything good. It's always
Well,
easier
here's
to
the
say
thing.
how bad it is.
There's a lot of good out there. I'm going to say this, and this is an exercise I've had people do. If you count the micro moments of positivity and negativity day, again, positivity would be like someone holding the door for you, saying thank you, and negative, like someone cutting you off in traffic. Most days, not all days, most days, the positives outweigh the negatives. We're just not trained to look for that.
Right.
And I made a decision years ago, Mike. I want to be a person that brings positivity into people's lives. Right. I will tell people thank you. If I had a great meal, I tell the waiter, I try and find hey, it was really great. Now I haven't had a haircut in years, Mike. I'm bald, but I can appreciate a good haircut.
Sorry for bringing that up.
There were many years that I did get haircuts. No, my point is this. If you see something you like, tell the person if you can. You might make their year. And we don't, you're right, Mike, we don't do it enough. So
I actually feel uncomfortable when parents like, that was the best practice I've ever been at. I'm like,
really?
Well, I mean, you must have been at some really bad practices, but I think, but I love, I mean, I do it. I'm always like, it's so foreign, but it shouldn't be.
No. Well, and look, I'll close the episode.
And it helps my practice anxiety for sure.
Your emotional investment. I think that's where we wanted to change it to. That the show has more from emotional anxiety to or emotionally draining to emotional investment. But Mike, I just realized this like while we're talking, just to close this out. A lot of the advice that we share, a lot of the thoughts we have, is really almost me talking to a younger version of myself. Right? Like I feel like it's like, okay, if I could sit down with myself 15 years ago, what would I say? It's like I said earlier, hey, Lee, relax. Like I would have taught myself that. And I really hope that, I don't hope, I know from your feedback, everybody listening that we're helping people out there. That really is the purpose of the show. To close it out, I want to thank all you once again. Not only does our audience grow daily, not only do we get great topics of discussion from you, but we have maintained a top 10 podcast in hockey here for a bit. Which we're up against some pretty large hockey titans on the charts with that. So it's pretty amazing to me that you guys believe in us enough to keep listening, to keep growing the show, to share the show. I get a lot of people, Mike, saying, hey, I shared this with my whole organization. And I want to practice what we're preaching, Mike, and just say to all of you, thank you. Thank you for believing in us and what we're doing. And more importantly, having these conversations. Mike and I are just two people, and Christy here, it's three, but there's hundreds, thousands of people that are registered to play hockey and coach hockey. And you're having these conversations because at the end of the day, you want to reduce some of this anxiety. Remember, you're probably not crazy, but you do exist in a crazy culture. That's why it feels crazy at times, but you're not crazy. So I want to close it out with that, Mike, unless you got anything else.
I love it. No, I got to do a practice plan right now. So get ready for practice tonight.
I'm going to steal that practice plan you offered before. I would like to see that as we always share things like that. But everybody, thank you so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Again, share this episode. 5-star reviews are always appreciated on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google, wherever you listen. And make sure, remember, we have a huge library now of podcasts that you can look at and share on ourkidsplayhockey.com. But above all, remember to enjoy the game. Remember to relax. Remember to be emotionally invested. You can check out all of that in the 200 episodes that we've done here at Our Kids Play Hockey. Have a great day, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.